At 40 and still single? That's like being past your expiration date. My husband is rich and handsome, and a genius, Emma declared in our family's backyard. The gathered crowd began to murmur, looking at us with confused expressions. It was understandable. After all, we were the only siblings raised in this house together. Since we were kids, I've always been at the mercy of Emma's whims. Each time, I was told to endure it because I was the older sister, but I couldn't take it anymore. I've decided not to hold back my feelings towards Emma any longer. My name is Sophia Brown, a 40-year-old housewife. I used to work in medical administration, but I quit when I had my daughter who's now 5. I spend more time at home, but waiting for my kindergartner daughter and my loving husband to come home is always a joy. Sophia, I'm home. Welcome back. Charlotte, Daddy's home. Daddy, welcome back. Hey, Charlotte. Did you have fun at kindergarten today? Yep, guess what happened today? My husband Noah is a doting father, always actively involved in parenting and household chores. Even though I'm a stay-at-home mom, he makes sure to give me days off from household duties when he's not working. He's an understanding husband. Wow, you've drawn this really well. Right? This is Mommy, this is me, and this is Daddy. That's amazing. Thank you, I'm so happy. Our 5-year-old daughter Charlotte loves drawing, especially pictures of our family. Her shy smile when praised by her dad is just adorable. You've really drawn this well. Do you enjoy drawing? Yeah. I'm always grateful for my 2 loved ones. One day, I received a call from an unknown number. It seemed suspicious, but it could be about my family. So I answered. Hello? Oh, Sophia. You're still alive. It was Emma, my sister, with whom I had severed ties 15 years ago. Huh? Emma? Why do you have my number? With enough money, it's easy to find out. Ah. I know where you live too. Don't try to run away. What do you want? We've cut ties with you and your family. Emma's high-handed attitude was about to provoke me, but I restrained myself and asked her. Oh right. Grandma passed away. I didn't want to contact you, but it was her will. She wants you at the funeral. All right. When is it? She informed me of the funeral's date and ended the call. Just before hanging up, Emma mentioned she had found my social media account. Looks like you're living quite modestly. Still single, I presume? No ring in sight, and not much activity on your account. Hope you don't end up lonely in your old age. I could hear her trying to suppress her laughter. The memory of Emma's sneering face from the past came to my mind, stirring up emotions. But before I could respond, the call ended. Emma and I were siblings from a reasonably well-off family. Or rather, we were. Our strict grandfather and kind grandmother raised us. Our father, their son, always followed grandfather's orders, while our mother, his wife, was always trying to please him. Growing up in such a family, I was always treated differently from my sister Emma. The reason, it seemed, was something as trivial as Emma resembling our father more. I, who took after our mother, was cherished by her and our kind grandmother, but in a household where the patriarchy prevailed, not being favored by my grandfather and father was a significant issue. Emma's whims were always indulged, and I, being the elder sister, was always forced to endure. Whether it was toys, hobbies, or even meals, it wasn't rare for things to become Emma's only. This had been the case ever since I could remember, back when Emma was just a baby. Yet, I think our family had money. However, I wasn't allowed to go to a private high school. Instead, I attended a local public high school. Emma, on the other hand, got into a prestigious private school for girls, famous in the area. She was driven to and from school every day, and after school, she would invite friends over for tea. There was this one time I happened upon that scene. Unaware, I walked into the garden where Emma and her friends were having tea. Right, isn't it? Oh, is that you, Sophia? Yes. Could you please disappear somewhere? Your gloomy face is bothering me. In this house where Emma's whims were law, she grew up spoiled. She was mean in front of me and played the good child in front of our grandparents and father. As I walked away, she answered her friend's question with a sneer. Yes, my sister. Hopeless, and so dull. After graduating high school, I saved up and went to a vocational school to become a medical administrative assistant. I felt fulfilled, being able to help not only patients but also doctors and nurses. I met William Thompson, an elite and very smart man, soon after I started working. He was a trainee doctor at the hospital where I worked. We went out for meals occasionally and there was a good vibe, but I felt like we needed a push. I talked to my mom about him during a rare visit home, and then Emma showed up. She usually avoided speaking to me. I stopped talking abruptly and waited for Emma to leave, but unexpectedly, she smiled warmly and approached me. Sophia, you've met someone wonderful, haven't you? I'm envious. Can you tell me about it? Despite all the terrible things Emma had done, I still wanted to get along with her as my sister. Her conversation and smile lifted my spirits, and in that happy moment with my mom, I shared about William. You should definitely make a move, Sophia. Go for it. Mom seemed to agree and, encouraged by them, William and I officially started dating. Emma, we're now a couple. Thank you. Congratulations, Sophia. I'd love to meet him at our house sometime. I felt relieved seeing Emma's smiling face. I thought her attitude changed for the better, becoming more mature and reasonable since I moved away from home. I thought our relationship was finally getting better. But then, I had to sever ties with Emma because she stole my fiancé. My relationship with William had been going well for several years. And he finally proposed and we had promised to marry. We were so happy. Before visiting my parents to announce our engagement, I decided to introduce William to Emma first. We arranged to meet the three of us. When Emma saw my fiancé, her face lit up as she spoke to him. I never knew you were such a wonderful person. I wish I had met you first. Oh, stop it, Emma. Just kidding. I was happy that Emma, who used to be so cruel, could now joke around with me. Please take good care of my sister. I will, absolutely. I was so moved by their exchange that I started to cry. Emma gently patted my back. Grateful for their warmth, I thought about how happy I was going to be. A month later, as I was thinking about visiting my parents with William, he called me. Hey, William. I was just about to call you. We should visit my parents soon. I'm sorry. What? Why? I can't marry you, Sophia. Wait, what do you mean? I'm sorry. Please don't contact me again. William, wait. What's going on? The call ended abruptly, and all attempts to reach him were blocked. I was confused about what happened and went to my parents' house a few days later. There seemed to be guests over. I saw Emma and the guests back in the usual gathering room. In front of them were my grandparents, and beside Emma, I recognized William's back. They turned around William and Emma. Emma's smug, triumphant smile burned into my memory. In that moment, I ran outside. My mother, who brought tea, seemed to talk to me, but I don't remember. I found myself crouching on a park bench. The rain started to pour, getting heavier, but I didn't care. Then my phone rang. It was from Emma. I'm sorry, Sophia, Emma said, but she didn't sound remorseful at all. What do you mean by this? I just wanted William for myself. Her voice reminded me of how she used to beg for toys or food when we were little. Remember I said I wish I had met him first? Emma and William had exchanged numbers when we met as three and had been meeting secretly. They even became intimate recently. Why? Why would you do this? Oh, Sophia, you knew, didn't you? What's yours is mine. Being nice to William was all a lie to make him mine. Thank you for introducing such a wonderful man to me. It's only natural it turned out this way. I'm more attractive than you. It was just a matter of order. Bye. The call ended abruptly. I changed my phone number, canceled my apartment lease, and changed jobs. I couldn't continue to work at the same place as William. I cut off ties with my family, including Emma, and hadn't seen them since. Emma's claim about finding my social media account was true, as she sent me a friend request. Her account was full of happy, glittering posts. One of them was posted just 5 minutes ago. Finally found my dear sister's account after contacting her for the first time in a while. Such a modest life. I couldn't imagine living like that. But she's still my only beloved sister. She even linked to my account in the post, which attracted many comments from her friends. Really, it's hard to believe she's Emma's sister, living like that. She hasn't changed a bit since I last saw her. But Emma, you're wonderful to still care for her. I couldn't bear it anymore and turned off my phone. It seemed like she sent me the friend request just to show off. My old feelings towards Emma resurfaced. I couldn't keep tolerating her. A desire for revenge began to grow within me. On the day of our grandmother's funeral, I showed up as Emma had demanded. Oh, you came. Just like in your social media post, such a plain look. Hello. William looks well. William averted his gaze uncomfortably. I never intended to see them again, but I couldn't refuse my grandmother's last wish, who always cared for me despite my grandfather's shadow. Mom, who is this? A boy about 5 years old approached. He looked like Emma. This is my sister. Huh, you look old. Mom is prettier. He said it innocently, reminding me of a young Emma. Isn't that nice? Let me introduce you. This is my son Thomas. He goes to a private kindergarten. The entrance exam was tough, but he's smart like William, my pride and joy. Emma spoke with a triumphant look. You're alone, Sophia? Oh right, you're not married. I saw it in your post. No ring in the photo of your hand. Oops, my mistake. She was referring to an old post of mine. Being single at 40 is like being past your expiration date. My husband is rich, handsome, and a genius. Emma laughed uncontrollably. Mom! Then, Charlotte ran up to me. Careful, Charlotte. Running is dangerous. Sorry, but it looked like Mom was being bullied. Really? Noah, who had parked nearby, came over and picked up Charlotte. Huh? Mom? Well, I might as well introduce them now. This is my husband, Noah Brown, the hospital director of a nearby hospital, and our daughter Charlotte. Wait, Noah Brown? The youngest ever director of Williams Hospital? Yes, that's right. Noah and I met when I got a new job at the hospital after cutting ties with my family. At the time, Noah was a fledgling doctor, drawn to my careful patient interactions and efficient support of doctors and nurses, and we started dating sincerely. Emma and William were dumbfounded. Unaware or not of his parents' shock, Thomas exclaimed. Ah! It's Charlotte! Charlotte? You mean from the Charlo channel with 300,000 subscribers? I always watch the Charlo channel. I thought she was cute. Can we be friends? Thomas approached Charlotte, held by Noah, with a friendly, adorable smile. No, I don't like you. You were mean to my mom. However, Charlotte turned away with a pout. At her words, Thomas let out a surprised. Huh? Then, he turned back to Emma and glared sharply at his own mother. Hey! It's all Mom's fault. Stupid. Huh? Wait, Thomas! Thomas ran off crying. And Emma, hesitating to follow, turned sharply towards me. What's this? Despite your plain posts, you. Just so you know, I have more followers than you, Sophia. Oh, about that. I don't put much effort into my own posts. It's Charlotte's channel that I focus on. And about the ring. I had been keeping our wedding rings on a necklace, hidden under my clothes. I took it out. We wear our wedding rings on necklaces. Sorry for not saying, but we hide them under our clothes to prevent Charlotte from pulling them when she was smaller. What? What's that? How did you, so plain, manage to marry such a high-end man? Emma, stop it. What? William, you think the same, right? She's plainer than me. Stop it, I said. William grabbed Emma's arms, forcing her to face him. Listen. Sophia's husband is the director of the hospital where I work. She's the director's wife. Emma fell silent, tears in her eyes, as William glared at her. I'm terribly sorry, Noah. My wife has been incredibly rude to your wife. I'm terribly sorry, Sophia. William showed his respect to us, while Emma still glared at him. It's okay, that's enough for us. Today is my wife's beloved grandmother's funeral, I hear. We'd like to attend if that's all right? Of course. Right, Emma? Yes, please. After that, everything went smoothly, and I said my final goodbye to my beloved grandmother. I introduced my husband and daughter to my parents. My mother was tearfully happy, while my father, still favoring Emma, kept a stern face. My mother asked me to visit again, but it was difficult. I could only respond with a giggle. A few days later, with a sense of foreboding, I opened my social media. Knowing Emma's cunning, I suspected she might have posted something to mock me about our recent encounter. Sure enough, there was a new post from a day ago on Emma's page. It featured a photo of Charlotte's back, accompanied by this text. Happily ran into Charlotte from Charlotte Channel. She was smiling and kind, even gave my son an autograph. Here's a picture of Charlotte's back. It must have been a photo taken at some point that day. The photo cleverly blurred the background against her black clothes. I was astonished at Emma's relentless self-promotion. The comments were filled with voices saying, "Amazing. I'm so jealous." I left a comment of warning and request. Please delete that photo immediately. Don't lie about the autograph. Then a new post appeared from Emma, complete with a screenshot of my comment. Jealousy is so unattractive. I would never lie, you know. The comment section was filled with people defending Emma, making it seem as if I was the bad one. It was like some silly skit, just like her previous post. Realizing that anything further I said to Emma would be futile, I made the necessary post as a parent on the Charlotte Channel's social media and videos. I informed that the photo of Charlotte on social media was taken without permission, that she can't write autographs yet, so that was also a lie, and that I requested its removal, but was ignored. I also made a video about internet literacy for kids, with Charlotte, explaining why you shouldn't post someone's photo without permission. The video, easy for children to understand, received many positive comments. A few days later, I received a friend request from a different account belonging to Emma. What are you gonna do about it? My account got suspended. I wasn't expecting an apology, but her first message like this made me ashamed to be related to her. Apparently, she created a new account. I wonder where she gets the motivation for her social media activity from. It's your fault for ignoring my request. And posting someone else's child's photo online without permission is crazy. What's the big deal? We're relatives. I should be able to enjoy a little fame. That's her true nature, beyond sympathy. I've made many posts, perfecting the photo angles each time. Now it's all for nothing. Why don't you try hard with your new account? Just avoid posting lies. I don't need you to tell me that. Please, stay out of my life from now on. Despite her approaching me first, she spoke as if I was the one interfering. Her self-centered world continues to spin happily. Emma still posts shiny, seemingly fulfilled photos. Not only mom friends but also friends from her time at the elite school, whom she used to invite for tea at home, appear often. Then, I received another friend request. This time from an unfamiliar name but with a recognizable face in the profile photo. A friend from Emma's elite school days. Hello, you're Emma's sister, right? Yes, that's me. After a polite introduction, she shared some troubling news. Actually, I'm having a bit of trouble because of Emma. Trouble? What kind of trouble? What she revealed was astonishing. Emma claimed to have some leverage over her friends from the elite school, forcing them to throw parties for her posts and even showing up uninvited at their homes. Is that true? Yes, I thought it was just me, but others are in the same situation. When Emma's account got suspended, she turned to me, hoping for help since I had commented on the issue. The supportive comments on her posts were also forced. But what kind of leverage does she have on you? She mentions things I don't remember, but the absence of memory isn't proof. She claims to have evidence of this leverage. I was appalled by Emma's reckless scheme and advised her friend. That's probably a lie. Emma lives in a world where she's the center, so she thought it would work. Ask her to show the evidence and press her about it. After this conversation, a mom friend of Emma's reached out with a similar story. It seems that in the past few days, there's been a noticeable decrease in the number of friends appearing in Emma's posts, which felt odd. I gave the same advice, and gradually, Emma's friends disappeared from her posts. Both individuals reported back that there was no evidence of any leverage. I've since become friends with both of them. Emma's posts have become noticeably lonelier compared to before. To borrow her words, Emma's life had become rather plain. About a week later, Noah started coming home late. It seemed something was happening at work. The hospital was somewhat abuzz, and even when I visited with some snacks, everyone seemed hurried. The nurses were very grateful for the snacks, but when I subtly inquired, they responded, "I can't say." And I ended up feeling awkward to them, causing them to feel embarrassed. A few days later, when his work had calmed down, Noah came home late and, without even stopping to look at Charlotte's sleeping face as he usually did, he spoke to me with a serious expression. "It's about William. Emma's husband." "What about William?" It turned out William had made a medical error. A medical error? Apparently, the past few days had been spent dealing with necessary hospital procedures and addressing patients and their families. It seems William was trying to hide it, but it was discovered after an anonymous message to the hospital. Noah conveyed to me with a grave face that such actions were unacceptable for a doctor responsible for lives. Yes, I agree. A doctor entrusted with lives should never betray the trust of their patients. Right. That's why we had to ask William to leave. It's essentially a dismissal. Furthermore, William had a bad attitude at work, making his re-employment prospects slim. Noah was aware of my family's situation, as I had told him during my grandmother's funeral. He talked to me about Emma's family out of concern. I later learned about Emma's subsequent situation through a phone call from someone. "It's been a while, Sophia." "Mom." My mother, who had been restricted from contacting me by my father, told me that Emma had been disowned by our family. Emma, it turned out, had divorced William after his medical error came to light and their constant fights became unbearable. With William losing his job and financial stability, Thomas ended up in a facility. This incident also seems to have revealed Emma's true colors to my father. "So, you didn't take in Thomas?" "Neither Dad nor I could do it. We're old and might need a facility ourselves soon." It was hard to say no, but after Dad disowned Emma for her divorce, it was difficult. My mother felt responsible for spoiling Emma and turning her into what she became, saying, we couldn't do the same to our grandson. They decided to provide some financial help to their grandson, but anonymously, through the facility. Then my mother started crying, repeatedly saying sorry. I told her it was okay. I knew she and my grandmother had tried their best. But it's also true that I don't have many good memories of that house, so I asked for a continued distance. "Sophia, let's go to the amusement park next weekend." "Charlotte would like that, right?" "I want to go." "I'll ride the ladybug coaster." "That's great, Charlotte." "Oh, I'll film it. Share all the fun things with everyone." During a family dinner, where we all were together for the first time in a while, we planned our next outing. Filming? Then I better dress up too. No, Daddy can't be in it. Daddy belongs to Charlotte and Mommy. Okay, maybe Mommy should dress up then. Charlotte puffed out her cheeks in response. No. I don't want everyone to know how cute my mommy is. But you brag about me to your kindergarten friends, don't you? Well, yes, but... Charlotte sulked. I'd be troubled if everyone knew how cute Mommy is. I was surprised by Noah, who strongly nodded. But also very happy. I love them both so much. I want to continue living this peaceful and happy life. My name is Sarah Johnson. I'm 42 years old. Originally, I was working for a corporation, but I quit when I got married and have since been handling the accounting for my husband's company. We're a family of 4, with my husband and our 2 kids. Today, we're finally having a family outing. We traveled a bit away from New York to an outlet at the base of Mount Rainier. My husband's company has been busy, and as the accountant, I've been swamped too. Since I rarely get to shop at my leisure, my husband, thinking of me, took the kids for a stroll, letting me enjoy some much-needed shopping time. As I was wondering where to go next, I accidentally caught sight of someone I never wanted to see again. I quickly averted my gaze, hoping not to be noticed, and subtly quickened my pace. But my wish was in vain, as I soon heard a voice I never wanted to hear again. Is that Sarah? I didn't want to hear his voice or see him ever again. There he was, my ex-husband, who had callously left me for another woman 12 years ago. The warm space in my heart felt a tiny black ink spot dropping in, just like back then. I wanted to erase it immediately. I didn't even look up and tried to pass by with just a nod. But my ex-husband was not the kind to let that happen. His personality hadn't changed at all since then. What, ignoring me? Shopping alone? Wait, did you come all the way here from New York by yourself? That's sad. His devilish nature was still intact, over 40 and still mocking me with sarcastic laughter. It's none of your business, really. I should have just ignored him and walked away, but maybe I haven't changed either, unable to do that. More than that, I knew that ignoring him would only make him louder and more bothersome, so I just wanted to keep things as calm as possible. That was all I was thinking. Oh, sorry. We're just a happy family here, hard for you to look at, huh? Oh, this kid? He's the one from that time, 12 years already. Meanwhile, you're still the same? Well, I guess no one would want an infertile old woman. 42 and single, I pity you. He always talked too much. Saying whatever he wanted, regardless of anyone else's feelings. He was probably trying to show off his child to the me in his mind. Standing there was a well-groomed boy with an air similar to that notorious woman. It was a relief, or maybe not, that he didn't resemble the man in front of me at all. I couldn't help but wonder what goes on in the mind of this man who could talk so insensitively about such things in front of his own child. Thanks, but you really don't need to worry about me, Mr. Shore. I had so much I wanted to say. Back then, I couldn't ask this man anything. But even if I had, I knew it wouldn't have changed anything, and now, it's meaningless and unwanted. So, I conceded as much as I could with that response. But this man didn't understand anything. Huh? Worry about you? No way, that was sarcasm. You don't get it? He laughed crudely with that woman, mocking me. The boy looked at them, his face a picture of confusion. For some reason, I felt pity for him and couldn't take my eyes off the child. Then, my ex-husband, hiding the boy behind him, yelled out. What are you looking at? You'll rot just by looking at us. He threw a childish tantrum at me. Thanks to him, we attracted a bit of attention. I didn't want to look at them, I just wanted to leave. I had just nodded and tried to pass by, but they kept provoking me. But responding in kind would only add fuel to the fire. Even returning small words like earlier was just throwing fuel to this guy. Fully aware of this, I restrained myself to a vague, small smile. However, even that seemed to displease them, as they began to hurl more insults. No matter what, it seemed that just being me was enough to upset them. As I seriously wondered what to do, I heard a familiar, sweet voice. "Mom, do you know them?" Turning to the voice, I saw my son, Tyler, looking at me curiously. He had returned without me noticing, brought back by my husband from their stroll. My daughter, Emily, was also there. A few steps behind, my husband was smiling gently. "Ah, sorry, you're back? Were you having fun?" "Uh-huh. We were gonna go check out the play park, and we saw you here." "Oh, really?" "Yeah, these people are old acquaintances of mine." "Hey, Tyler, Emily, say hello." I called Tyler and Emily to my side and prompted them to greet my ex-husband's family. They both greeted. "Nice to meet you, I'm Tyler Johnson." "Hello, I'm Emily Johnson." The two of them were taken aback, clearly not expecting to be greeted by strangers. They were at a loss for words, struck by the surprise. I couldn't help but smile inwardly at their reaction, hoping for their forgiveness. "Hey, since it's been a while, can we talk a bit more? Is that okay?" "Sure, that's fine. We're gonna play over there, so take your time talking." Tyler's kind words made me smile naturally. Then, I noticed that child, staring at us enviously. Tyler." "Yeah? What's up?" "This boy is about your age. Why don't you play with him?" I said, introducing my ex-husband's son to Tyler. Tyler and Emily love making new friends, so I was sure they'd get along well. "Darling, could you please take care of them for a little longer?" I called out to my husband, who was standing behind the children. His gaze shifted to my ex-husband. My ex-husband, silent under that gaze, shrugged his shoulders slightly. My husband, who's a younger childhood friend, has always supported me after I was hurt by my ex-husband. When I moved back to my parents' house, my husband, who lived nearby, had seen me with my ex-husband. So even after all these years, he knew who this man was. With a soft reply and a nod to the two of them, he took our 3 kids and left. Then, my ex-husband, who had been silent until now, started muttering as if he couldn't hold it in. "Can't be." For him, it must have been unbelievable. Clearly, his face turned pale. I knew what that expression meant but didn't address it. If he wanted to know, he could ask himself. While I said I wanted to talk a bit more with the kids, my ex-husband, unable to hold back any longer, blurted out. "What does this mean?" "What does what mean?" "That. Just now. They're my family, what about it?" I cut him off and answered plainly. That's what he wanted to know, right? Glancing over, I saw the shocked woman and my ex-husband with a contorted face. It was just as I imagined, and I couldn't help but laugh to myself. "You weren't single? You just assumed that on your own. Then you should have said something." "Why should I tell you every detail, Mr. Shore? We just happened to meet here. There's no reason for us to meet or interact ever again. But still. And what's so strange about me having a family? I'm a 42-year-old woman, after all." When I returned his earlier sarcastic remark, he bit his lip and looked away. I know exactly what the person in front of me wants to say. There's probably only one thing on his mind. He was bold enough to leave his wife for a mistress, but when it came to crucial moments, he was still a coward. "Something on your mind? Eh? Do you want to ask something? Huh? You look like it." His eyes flickered, showing his unease, while the woman beside him looked puzzled. If he couldn't ask, I'd tell him myself. Smiling at them, I said, "Both of them, Tyler and Emily, are my kids, born from me. Aren't they lovely? They look like me and my husband." I told them clearly and directly. My ex-husband froze, unable to process or say anything. It was the woman who reacted first. "Wait! Weren't you infertile?" Jumping right to the heart of the matter, "I see. But..." One thing I never confirmed back then. So, my ex-husband had told this woman about the fertility treatments. But his understanding was selfish and far from the truth. I'm sorry, but I can have children. Eh? Did Mr. Shore tell you I was infertile? You were going to fertility treatments, right? His one-sided assumption and conclusion. Even the fertility treatments we attended together, he thought of it as your fault. I almost sighed at the revelation. Unfortunately, I've had tests at the gynecologist, and it's been proven. Besides, I've been pregnant twice already, so there's really nothing to prove at this point. No way. It's true. So, our compatibility was just really bad? What's the point of asking such a thing now? It's a creepy question with no real answer, and I completely ignored it. Then the woman bit back. You're really telling the truth, right? What? You could have just adopted kids or something. So, after compatibility, now it's about adoption. I don't really care, but I need to make this clear. You're welcome to inquire at the gynecologist I visited, or even do a DNA test with my kids. I don't have any problem with that. What? Should I introduce you? Huh? After I divorced Mr. Shore, I started dating my current husband and married him 6 months later. We had kids soon after. So, my eggs are actually super healthy. I even got a stamp of approval from my gynecologist. Introduce what? What? Why do I have to be introduced to your gynecologist by you? The woman's face twisted as she snapped back. My words had hit a nerve with this simple-minded person. Well, you don't have a second child, right? What? Mr. Shore always said he wanted 3 kids, so, should I introduce you? They probably never imagined someone like me would say something like that. Both were speechless, frozen in place. Whether they didn't intend to have another child or couldn't, it was clear from their reactions. Their faces, previously contorted, quickly became docile. So, may I ask you something? I said, and they just turned their eyes towards me, still frozen. Whether they were wary or something else, well, that's none of my business, but I was about to confront a suspicion I had been carrying alone for over 10 years. There's something I've been wondering about for a long time. What is it? Can I say it? Their wariness intensified. Struggling to keep a straight face, I calmly said to them. Is that child really Mr. Shore's? What? That child, is he really Mr. Shore's son? It's important, so I said it twice. Those seemingly casual words turned out to be a massive bombshell. The woman went pale without a word, and my ex-husband's face turned bright red in anger. What? Are you kidding me? You heard it too, didn't you? He's my child. The child Jennifer and I made with love, I told you that before. He started shouting again in the middle of the outlet. Given the nature of the topic, we drew a lot of stares. The woman, either embarrassed or wanting to escape, quickly hid behind my ex-husband. Of course, I heard that. More than enough. Then. But you see. As my ex-husband tried to deny my words, I quickly interjected. I had to deny that because I know it's not true. My ex-husband, looking puzzled, probably couldn't even imagine what I was talking about. I briefly reminisced about the final days of our marriage, where such confusion was the norm, and felt a thin veil of emotion cloud my vision. It's not that I felt sad anymore, but recalling those days when I carried everything on my own made me feel a bit vulnerable. Shaking off that brief moment of weakness, I faced them again. Huh? What does that mean? Well, it's kind of late now. What are you talking about? Should I say it? Just spit it out. Hurry up, you crazy woman. His insults, so familiar, made me wonder if that's all he knew. Yeah, I was just trying to be considerate of you, Mr. Shore. Huh? If you really want to know that you're infertile, I can tell you in great detail. At my words, my ex-husband looked completely stunned, and the other woman let out a silent scream. As expected, all the color drained from her face. What's the matter? I thought you wanted to know. Why the shock and loss of color? What's wrong? I spoke a bit louder, deliberately, as the two of them grimaced. Well, of course. He left me for Jennifer because she had his child, but if he's infertile, it completely turns the story on its head. Hey, you're kidding, right? His voice was barely a whisper. He would want to think so, but facts don't change. I enlarged an image on my phone that I'd kept just in case a day like this would come and showed it to them. This is Mr. Shore, remember? The test you took during our fertility treatments. Ah. He probably didn't remember. Or had denied it so much it was erased from his memory. My words must have jogged his memory. He glanced down briefly, showing a bitter expression. Back when we were undergoing fertility treatments, the doctor had suggested testing the male side as well. But my husband, who blamed me for our inability to conceive, was not enthusiastic about it. However, he couldn't refuse a strong request from the doctor. In a way, his cowardly nature was a blessing then. But eventually, before the results came out, Jennifer's issue surfaced, and he left me. I ended up hearing the results alone. The doctor was kind, and I couldn't just ignore it after the divorce. I was shocked when I went to hear the results. Mr. Shore was infertile. After all, shortly before, he came to report that they had conceived a child and left me. Was a natural reaction, right? Right, Jennifer. The woman, called by her name for the first time today, struggled to compose her frozen expression. My ex-husband, fixated on the phone screen, turned to look at the pale-faced woman and asked curtly, "Did you lie to me?" Did you lie to me? Well, that's... If I'm infertile, I can't have children. Now that I think about it calmly, we only had intimate relations properly once before the supposed pregnancy. And even then, we used protection. Every other time, I was too drunk to even finish. So, even if I wasn't infertile, the chances of us having a child together were practically zero. Right? He looked at me, as if seeking confirmation. I didn't affirm or deny, just silently observed them. Taking my silence as confirmation, he let out a heavy sigh and a click of the tongue, scratching the back of his head in frustration. Then Jennifer suddenly became defiant. But that's how it was made to look. Huh? What do you mean? Both my ex-husband and I questioned Jennifer, overlapping our voices in confusion. Facing us, she began to speak with an air of enjoyment. I was really living it up back then. I had countless flings and one-night stands, you know. I was 20, so you get it, right? That phase of enjoying good times with attractive men? Well, it's not my fault I was so popular. She even started laughing by herself, leaving my ex-husband and me speechless, simply listening to the words pouring out of her eager mouth. I was so carefree, never got pregnant no matter how much I did it, so I gradually let my guard down. Sometimes, if it felt too good or I was just lazy, I went with the flow without thinking. That kind of became the norm for me. I could somewhat understand that mindset. At 20 or so, still new to such experiences. It's possible to get carried away or overwhelmed by pleasure. But that's also why contraception and protection from STDs are important. The thought of her being involved with numerous partners made me shudder. What if my ex-husband had caught something and then? Well, it's just a hypothetical, but the thought was chilling. And, well, eventually it happened, I got pregnant. But even after I found out, I had no idea whose child it was. Around that time, I met Steve at the nightclub where I was working. He was 12 years older, decent looking, and a 32-year-old manager at a big company. You could see his bright future from a mile away. I decided he had to be the father, so I set my plan into motion. The facts she recounted so nonchalantly were incredibly selfish, and the first thing that came to my mind was the innocent, puzzled face of the child I saw earlier. The thought of how his life could be affected by such adult selfishness was my only concern. As expected, my ex-husband said, "Now that I know the truth, I can't stay with you." It was a line that implied a looming divorce. His demeanor reminded me of myself 12 years ago. I had so many questions, but knew asking them wouldn't change anything. For the first time, I felt a twinge of sympathy for him. Of course, Jennifer started making a scene, accusing him of being cruel to their child. Once again, she was using the child as a shield to protect herself. But my ex-husband, having regained his composure from the whole conversation, was unswayed. "Get a DNA test and find the real father. I'm not responsible for raising him." "What? DNA doesn't matter. You're Ken's legal father. We were married when Ken was born. You're the only father he has." Jennifer was desperate, clutching at my ex-husband as her hands turned white from the strain. Yet, my ex-husband calmly removed her hand and stated the reality. "Even if we're legally parent and child, that can be contested in court." "Why would you do that?" My ex-husband, a law school graduate who once considered becoming a lawyer and worked in the legal department at his company, knew many lawyers personally. Being in such an environment, my ex-husband was, understandably, well-versed in law. I thought it was foolish of him to dismiss his wife and run off with a mistress, but knowledge indeed proves to be an ally in life. His tone was firm, using the law as his shield. Jennifer could only shout in response. "After all this time? Betraying your own son who adored you as his real father. What did you say? You're betraying your own dear son, aren't you? The first betrayal was by you. Give me back my life. Give Ken back his life." Their voices echoed again across the outlet plaza. My ex-husband, almost in tears, shouted that it wasn't just about him. Ken's life needed to be returned as well. Jennifer's betrayal wasn't just against him alone. He was facing the reality that it had also been inflicted upon Ken. He was confronting that fact, probably realizing his own actions had largely contributed to the situation. In the distance, in the park area, I could see the three children playing. They were laughing together so naturally, it was hard to believe they'd only just met. I felt a strong responsibility to protect these smiles. "Mr. Shore." "What?" "Ken, right? He's cute, isn't he?" "Of course. He's my son." "My son, huh?" "Ah." Even after facing such a truth, those words came out naturally. To him, a life with Ken had become ingrained, a daily routine he took for granted. "Of course. You've been looking forward to his birth, and ever since he was born, you've always been together. Being a boy, he must have spent a lot of time playing with his dad, right?" "Well, yeah." "That's great, then." "What? Does the blood relation really matter?" "That's..." Probably, my ex-husband was starting to think about it. And I knew his conclusion would come soon. The problem was Jennifer. "What do you think about Ken?" "Huh? Ever since I met you, I wondered, with such long nails that seem impractical for housework, do you actually do any house chores or child rearing?" "Well, Ken is so attached to Steve, he does most of the care. Plus, I'm super clumsy, so before things get worse, Steve does most of the housework, you know." "Ah, I see." My ex-husband had indeed become Jennifer's convenient man. No wonder she wouldn't consider divorce, no matter what happened. Even if she had a child by chance, she knew she could return to the same lifestyle after giving birth. "So, what do you do all day?" Hang out with friends, go drinking, stuff like that." "You were really just looking for a money bag and a convenient house husband, weren't you?" "That's what I said, right? I worked hard to make sure I got him. I'm so lucky Steve is such a good guy." "Enough already." My ex-husband abruptly cut off Jennifer's continuous talk and then, tightening his expression, said, "I'm divorcing you, and I'll take Ken with me." He announced his intention to involve a lawyer, confronting the now uproarious Jennifer. "This is fine. Ken's smile will surely be protected." On Sunday, the kids were playing games in the living room. I heard them call out Ken's name. "Ken's online. Let's invite him." Tyler had exchanged game IDs with Ken that day and had since been playing and chatting online. Through Tyler, I learned that my ex-husband had divorced Jennifer and she had left. Concerned that Ken might be downcast since his mother left, I learned that there hadn't been much change for him. His father was often out for work on weekdays, and his mother was rarely home, so it wasn't so different for him. Furthermore, I heard that sometimes when Ken returned from school, he would find unfamiliar men at home with his mother. It seemed likely that she had been using my ex-husband as a financial resource and a house husband while seeking new relationships outside. She probably took advantage of the situation to divorce and move on with another man. Hearing about Jennifer's unbelievable lifestyle recently, I realized people don't change easily. This reality might seem very cruel to Ken, especially in black and white. But in fact, I think this might be for the best. The reality is Ken's voice, coming from the gaming console, sounds very cheerful. "Thanks for letting them exchange IDs that day," I said to my husband, seated across from me, who smiled warmly at the sound. It was my husband who naturally accepted Tyler's request in the park. "Yeah, they seemed really happy. But I'd rather not get directly involved with your ex-husband." "Of course, I feel the same. But I do believe his love for Ken is genuine." "Yes." My husband smiled warmly. In fact, it was my ex-husband who was eager for children when we started fertility treatments. He has always loved children, and there's no doubt he was doting even before Ken was born. Him raising Ken with deep affection, regardless of blood ties, would surely make Ken's days happier. I'm confident that if the day comes when they have to face the truth, those two will be okay. For some reason, I feel sure about it. And as for me, I can't help but worry about Ken in the back of my mind. Knowing the kids are connected online, I can get a glimpse of how he's doing and feel reassured about his safety when he's home alone. I'm sure my husband feels the same way. We may never intersect with their lives again, but the children live in a different world. I hope these kids can always spend their days with smiles, listening to their lively conversations in the living room. If you're gonna have your ovaries removed, that means no kids, right? I don't need you anymore, so how about we get a divorce? The paper that Michael, my husband, slammed down in front of me was, unbelievably, a divorce application. Wait, what are you saying? Jokes like this are not okay, especially now. Just a few days ago, I was rushed to the hospital with sudden abdominal pain. After tests, they found it could be ovarian cancer. I was admitted for surgery the next day. This isn't a joke. I've been putting up with everything till now. No, it's been me who's been enduring, living with my in-laws and putting up with their mistreatments. It's me who has been putting up with everything all this time. Yet, why do I have to be the one faced with a divorce form? Especially at this time, with surgery tomorrow? Overwhelmed with anger, sadness, and despair, I covered my face with my hands. Then, as if to make things worse, I heard my in-laws' voices. "A woman who can't have kids is useless, just quietly step back. Clinging to a younger husband at your age is disgraceful. These 3 years were a waste for Michael. Just disappear from our lives." My in-laws' words tore through my heart. I bit my lip, holding back tears, and with trembling hands, I managed to scribble my name on the form. "Good, now you're nothing to me," Michael said, storing the divorce form in his inner pocket. As he was leaving, Michael added, "Actually, I've recently met a nice girl at work. She's young, cute, and healthy. I made the right choice not getting stuck with an ugly, old gene pool." Shocked by his cruel words, I was speechless. Pushed to rock bottom, little did I know that 3 years later, when I would meet Michael again, things would take such an unexpected turn. My name is Emily Williams. I married Michael, 2 years my junior, 2 years ago. I met Michael at work when I was 38, and after his relentless pursuit, we ended up getting married. I had already given up on the idea of marriage and initially kept turning down his invitations. There are plenty of younger women out there. But I like someone independent and calm like you, Emily. I'm 38 and might not be able to have kids. I don't want kids, I just want to be with you, Emily. Michael insisted. No matter what I said, he was adamant that I was the only one he wanted to marry. So, I presented him with just one condition for marriage. Just promise me this. I'm not so focused on having children that I'd struggle with late pregnancy. Let's not force having kids, they are a blessing that should come naturally. Michael agreed to this condition, and that's how we ended up getting married. Michael, who had always lived with my in-laws, insisted on continuing to live with them even after our marriage. I'm an only child, and I'll eventually have to take care of my parents. Why not start living together with them from the beginning? I was a bit hesitant to live with strangers at this age, but since he had married someone like me, I agreed to live with my in-laws, Jacob and Olivia. However, I soon realized this was a mistake. Emily, we'd like you to take care of shopping, cooking, washing dishes, taking out the trash, and cleaning the bathroom. Why should I be the only one doing so much when there are 4 adults living here? I couldn't voice it, but I felt distrustful of them from the start. They seemed to think of me as a housekeeper. Emily, I feel like eating stew today. Emily, the entrance is dirty, clean it. Emily, iron my shirt. How had the 3 of them been living up to now? Their house wasn't dirty, so someone must have been doing the chores before I arrived. This made me even more frustrated. Moreover, my in-laws were overjoyed, assuming that since their only son, Michael, got married, they would soon have a grandchild. You're almost 40, you should start infertility treatment soon. No, we're fine even without kids. What are you talking about? There's no point in marriage if you're not gonna have kids. My in-laws argued as if choosing not to have children was inconceivable. Well, we're not young anymore, so we decided not to be too anxious about having kids. Michael initially tried to convince my in-laws, remembering the condition of our marriage. But my in-laws were persistent. No matter how much Michael tried to persuade them, a few days later, they'd start grandchildren yet? One day, Michael came into the room, his face red with anger. Mom said I should get checked at the hospital because it might be my fault you're not pregnant. His pride as a man was hurt, and he started taking it out on me. But hey, it's not my fault. It's just Michael being upset on his own. Of course, I didn't say it out loud, but my frustration kept growing day by day. I'll prove it's your fault we can't have kids. We're going to the hospital, he eventually declared. However, I had no intention of undergoing fertility treatments, so I ignored what Michael said and made up an excuse about being busy at work to escape his family's house. I'm home. Mom, listen to this. I was relieved that my parents' home was near my workplace. Before going home, I would stop by my parents' house to get things off my chest. There, my loving parents, Tom and Scarlett Smith, who had already retired and were enjoying their golden years, would be waiting for me. I wondered how my parents felt about their daughter, who had finally married in her 40s, suddenly exploding with complaints about her marriage. At first, I felt guilty towards my parents, but they listened to my complaints like it was just casual conversation over drinks. Emily, what happened today? Our neighbor gave us some good sake, let's drink together. Maybe it's because they took it so lightly that I could vent to them. Why does everyone think marriage equals kids? And even though pregnancy and childbirth are all hard on the woman, the husband's parents have so much to say. People are just set in their ways, especially as they get older. I'm known for my gentle demeanor. Your dad has mellowed with age. Maybe Michael may be like your dad? Over time, this situation will probably turn into a laughing matter. My parents always tried to encourage me. Having them always on my side gave me the strength to keep going in my marriage. Then, one day on my way home from work, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my lower abdomen. What is this pain? I started sweating from the pain and couldn't stand anymore, so I sat down on the sidewalk. I tried to reach for my phone to get help, but my hands were shaking too much to find it. Fortunately, a passerby noticed and called an ambulance for me. At the hospital, after various tests, I was told there was a possibility of ovarian cancer. Can you contact your family right away? The nurse asked. I called Michael. It was past 7 p.m., usually the time he'd be home, but he didn't answer the phone no matter how many times I called. I had no choice but to call my mother. "I'm coming right now. You'll be okay, Emily," my mother assured me, and soon arrived at the hospital with my father. As soon as I saw my parents' faces, tears overflowed from my eyes. Even past 40, I wasn't strong enough to face cancer alone. My mother gently stroked my back. Together with my parents, I listened as the doctor explained my medical condition. "There's a high likelihood of cancer in the right ovary. We recommend removing both ovaries and the uterus."
"Does that mean I won't be able to get pregnant?"
"Yes." "Were you hoping to become pregnant, Ms. Williams?" "Well..." I hesitated. Honestly, at 41, I wasn't that desperate to have children. But faced with the pressure from Michael and my in-laws to have kids, I momentarily resisted the idea of becoming infertile by choice. "If I wanted to get pregnant, are there other treatment options?" I asked timidly. "You need to think about what's best for your body first." My parents looked at me with worried faces. The doctor, looking intently at me, spoke quietly. "There are methods, but we need further tests to see if they're applicable to you, Ms. Williams." My parents were probably surprised that I was concerned about pregnancy. I was surprised at myself too. I couldn't articulate my feelings well, but the thought of having both my ovaries and uterus removed, having never had children, left me feeling indescribably empty. A thought crossed my mind that maybe if I didn't give up and tried hard, Michael and my in-laws might change their views about me. Such thoughts also crossed my mind. "I'm not ready to completely give up on pregnancy. Can we try keeping one ovary?" The doctor looked into my eyes and nodded. "I understand your feelings, Ms. Williams. However, depending on the progression, there might still be a need to remove everything." After discussing with the doctor, the decision was made to remove my right ovary, the site of the disease, in 5 days. If the disease was confined to the right ovary, we would observe with chemotherapy. "If there's any spread, you'll need to give up on pregnancy," the doctor emphasized, and I nodded firmly. Thankfully, my parents didn't comment on my decision and quietly supported me. My mother visited me every day in the hospital, caring for my downtrodden spirits. "Did you get in touch with Michael?" "No, he didn't answer the phone, and there's been no reply to my email about being hospitalized. I just don't understand Michael." My parents were silent, not expecting the relationship between their daughter and her husband to have deteriorated so much. "He must be busy. Your dad and I have plenty of time, so don't worry about laundry or anything. Oh, I'll buy your favorite pears later." My mother made an effort to act cheerfully, trying to keep my spirits from sinking. The warmth of my parents was deeply comforting. I resolved to do my best in the surgery for them. That's when Michael and my in-laws entered my hospital room noisily. The day before the surgery. I glared at the three of them. "Why did you ignore my calls and emails?" Michael, with a smirk, replied. "Seems like you had a tough time. Good job." Expecting an apology for not contacting me, I was speechless and at a loss for words. I am about to undergo surgery, and yet they speak as if it's none of their business? Boiling with anger, I glared even harder at the three of them. Seeing me like that, they whispered something to each other and then looked at me with a smirk. "Get out! I don't want to see your faces." Unable to hold back, I yelled at them, forgetting I was in a hospital. Then Michael walked up to me and thrust a piece of paper at me. "If you're getting your ovaries removed, you can't have kids, right? I don't need you anymore, so can we get a divorce?" The paper Michael presented was, shockingly, a divorce papers. "Wait, what are you saying? Jokes like this are not okay, especially now." "This isn't a joke. I've been putting up with this until now. No, it's been me who's been enduring all this time. Yet, why do I have to be the one presented with the divorce papers? And all this happening right before my surgery tomorrow." Mixed feelings of anger, sadness, and despair swirled inside me, and I covered my face. Then, to make matters worse, I heard the voices of my in-laws. A woman who can't bear children is useless, just quietly step aside. Clinging to a younger husband at your age is disgraceful. These 3 years were a waste for Michael. Just disappear from our sight. Their words tore my heart to pieces. The fact that I chose a treatment option to preserve my chance of pregnancy for these 3 people now seemed foolish. What is this treatment I'm getting? Stunned, I watched as Michael placed the divorce paper and a pen on my bedside table. All you have to do is sign your name, and it's done. I'll take care of filing it, so you should at least be grateful. Saying this, Michael forced a pen into my trembling right hand. I wasn't necessarily against the divorce itself. In reality, I felt it would be unbearable to continue living with my in-laws, enduring their constant remarks until I had a child. But for the past 3 years, I endured their tyranny. Because they were family, and they only saw me as a machine for producing children. My resentment towards the 3 people, who, instead of supporting me through my cancer and upcoming surgery, presented me with a divorce, was profound. I bit my lip hard to hold back tears and, with great effort, steadied my trembling right hand with my left, furiously signing my name.
Good, now we're complete strangers,
Michael said, tucking the divorce papers into his inner pocket. The 3 of them, looking satisfied, left the hospital room. Just before leaving, Michael turned back and said,
"Actually, I've recently met a nice girl at work.
She's young, cute, and healthy. She's got nothing on you."
I made the right choice not getting stuck with an ugly, old gene pool.
As I glared at Michael, he jokingly said, glad to be divorcing the old hag, and left. The room quieted down, and the only sound was my sniffling. Michael and my in-laws had pushed me, already crushed by illness and fear, even further down. I buried my face in the blanket, sobbing uncontrollably. After some time, I heard a knock on the door. In a panic, I covered my face with the blanket, pretending to sleep.
"Emily, you're asleep. I peeled some pears for you, eat them later,"
said my mother, who usually entered without knocking. My mother quietly came in, placing a container with the pears on the table.
"I'll move all your stuff to our house today. Once you're discharged, maybe you can help with the laundry. Oh, and your father has started cooking. Look forward to his meals. I'll come back tomorrow morning."
My mother gently stroked my head peeking out from the blanket and left the room. My mother, without saying a word, seemed to understand everything. Maybe she overheard my conversation about the divorce outside the room. Feeling her endless kindness and warmth, I cried again. After a while, I felt better and looked up. The pears in the container were cut into bite-sized pieces, easy to eat. "Thank you, Mom." Biting into the juicy pear and picturing my parents' smiling faces. I resolved to get better soon to repay my parents and set recovering and making them worry less is my goal. The next day, I underwent surgery to remove my right ovary. The right ovary turned out to be cancerous, but fortunately, the left ovary was healthy. The plan was to continue with chemotherapy to target any unseen cancer cells. The first chemotherapy session was tough due to side effects and the medication not agreeing with me. I couldn't eat anything, and my hair started falling out, making me visibly weaker. But my parents were always there, encouraging me.
"Last night, we saw the meteor shower you love. Dad found 5 shooting stars. He made wishes so you'll get better."
I was touched to know my dad, who usually had no interest in such things, had stayed up to watch the sky just for me. His love made me feel the warmth of family anew. Thanks to them, I was able to maintain a strong determination to persevere for their sake. After 6 months in the hospital, I switched to outpatient treatment.
"If no one uses it, the house just gathers dust. We're glad you're coming back home."
Taking me back home as if it were the most natural thing, never mentioning my divorce. I couldn't return to work immediately, so I spent some time recovering at my parents' house. Supported by my parents, I gradually started to feel like myself again. Then the second new year since my surgery dawned. Before my illness, I used to spend New Year's Day just sleeping, but after experiencing cancer, I made sure to lead a regular, healthy life.
Ah, that was a good walk.
As I returned home from my usual morning walk. Just then, the mailman arrived and handed me some New Year's cards. Flipping through them, I found one with a baby's photo. It came from Michael. While I was battling my illness, Michael had moved on, finding happiness and even having a child, just as my in-laws had wanted. I wondered what his intention was in letting me know this. Although the card didn't make me feel good, Michael was now a stranger to me. There was no point in wasting my energy on a stranger. I decided to move on. Also, I was certain that my parents would be upset if they found this New Year's card. I immediately tore it up and threw it away as soon as I entered the house, making sure they never knew about it. After the new year, I managed to return to work. My office was just a couple of train stops from my parents' house, so it was manageable for me to commute.
How was the healthy lunch? It was delicious, thanks as always.
Every day, my father prepared balanced lunch for me. My father, who never cooked while I lived at home, now making lunch for me. I was deeply touched.
Dad, you're really good at cooking. Could you always cook?
I quietly asked my mother, who shook her head.
Your dad got excited about making your lunch. He's improved his cooking skills over the past few months.
Seeing father humming while packing the lunch, I could tell he was truly happy that I was getting better. Parents give their children unconditional love, no matter how old they get. I wish I could have been a parent like mine, giving unconditional love. I smiled to myself, thinking vaguely about it. Although I kept one ovary, it turned out to be unnecessary for me, a single woman. But I need to stay healthy for my parents, and someday, I'll repay them. I made that resolution anew. Since then, I have been living a healthy and peaceful life, both mentally and physically. But one day, Michael and my in-laws suddenly appeared in front of me. They were waiting outside my parents' house for me to return from work. Emily. Michael muttered my name, and all three of them knelt down, not caring about the people around.
I was wrong. I want to start over.
What is he saying now, especially since he already has a child? I was furious at Michael's irresponsibility and my in-laws who followed him around like a shadow, all kneeling together. As I glared in silence, Michael began to explain. I was deceived. According to him, he quickly married the young woman from work. Because she was already pregnant. I was angry to learn he had cheated while we were still married. Then, as the New Year's card showed, a son was born, and he thought he was living a perfect life, but it turned out his current wife had another man. Michael found out when he hired a detective because he felt suspicious about his wife always going outside to take calls and never leaving her phone unattended. Shockingly, the child he thought was his own was actually the child of his wife's lover. When Michael confronted his wife, she nonchalantly admitted to the affair and the child's paternity. And with a brazen attitude, she reportedly said, laughing,
"Of course, I'd choose my boyfriend's genes over those of an ugly, old guy like you."
I've heard that line before. I muttered under my breath, and Michael hung his head in shame. I'm truly sorry. I finally realize how terribly we've treated you. Following his lead, his parents also apologized. I won't say anything about kids anymore. Please come back and live with me. Look, my parents are truly sorry. How audacious of them. After everything they had put me through, I couldn't comprehend their nerve showing up like this, and I couldn't bring myself to even speak to them. Just then, my parents and a man appeared from the house, having heard the commotion at the front door. Guests?
What are you doing here?
My mother exclaimed in shock upon seeing Michael and my in-laws kneeling before me. The man behind my parents was surprised at first, but then quickly understood the situation and rushed to my side. Please stay away from my wife. He shielded me from Michael and my in-laws. Michael and my in-laws were dumbfounded. Your wife? What do you mean, Emily? This is a joke, right? Why would he think it's a joke? I seized the moment to retaliate.
Sorry, but I'm married to him. Thanks to you demanding a divorce back then, I found someone who loves me for who I am, not just as a childbearing machine. I proudly clung to my new husband's arm in front of them. He was a colleague from work who took over my responsibilities while I was on leave and continued to help me upon my return. After I returned to work, he helped me with my tasks to ensure I didn't overexert myself, and gradually, I found myself spending more and more time with him. Being with you, Emily, makes me appreciate the little joys of life. Will you marry me? He had proposed, accepting me entirely, and we were married 6 months ago.
Wait, is that a maternity badge on your bag?
My mother-in-law shrieked, noticing the maternity badge on my bag. Michael's face contorted in anger when he saw the badge.
You said you had your ovary removed. Did you lie to me? Lying is despicable. Enjoy playing the tragic heroine?
Michael and my in-laws were still harassing me just like before.
Wasn't it you who forced a one-sided divorce without listening to my side? You were the ones who desperately wanted children, and I chose to keep one ovary to maintain even the slightest possibility of pregnancy, but you never listened, did you?
Remembering the situation made my blood boil. Sensing my anger, my new husband gently stroked my back to calm me. My wife endured tough chemotherapy and is still fighting hard with her remaining ovary. I ask you not to approach my dear wife again. If you break this promise, we will take legal action. He said firmly, making Michael and his parents back away.
Came to look after the single you, thinking of keeping you as a housemaid. Well, suffer through a high-risk pregnancy if you like.
Michael said spitefully as he left with my in-laws. My parents rushed over to me.
Emily, are you okay? Seriously, if they show up again, I won't forgive them.
Our parents' face filled with anger, having seen me suffer through the tough times. I will absolutely protect Emily, so please rest assured, father-in-law and mother-in-law. My husband reassured my parents, finally easing the tension. Later, my mother shared some gossip she had heard. Michael had his new wife live with his parents just like me. I had thought they were simply deceived by their new daughter-in-law, but it wasn't entirely the case. They had mistreated me, thinking I couldn't have children. So I imagined they must have been kinder to the pregnant new wife, but that wasn't true either. They didn't treat her any better, making her do housework and carry heavy things despite being pregnant. Neighbors had even helped her carry groceries, worried about her carrying heavy loads with a big belly. The new wife was wrong to have cheated and deceived Michael. But considering how they exploited her, no one could sympathize with them. Michael and my in-laws twice made their spouses live with them and treated them like maids, only to end up divorcing them shortly afterward. In the neighborhood, such bad rumors spread, and soon, nobody wanted to associate with Michael and his family. Even though they were still looking for a new wife to take care of them, whenever Michael brought a woman home, the neighbors quickly warned her about them. Thanks to that, they didn't manage to prey on any more women, and the three of them now live a meager life, viewed oddly by the neighborhood. Was their house like a junkyard before you married into it? No, it was reasonably clean. I think Olivia must have been taking care of the house properly when there was no daughter-in-law. Ah, I see. My mother nodded, understanding the situation. Recently, Olivia's health has been declining, probably due to her age. It seems Michael is taking care of Olivia while working, but with just 2 men, they are struggling to manage, and their house has recently become unkempt. They're getting what they deserve. The 3 of them, bound by blood, have to figure it out on their own. I hope that they will reflect on how they have mistreated their spouses in the past and live their lives with that lesson in mind.
Mommy, I'm home.
Just then, my daughter and husband came home.
Welcome back, we were waiting. Let's play with Grandma.
My daughter jumped into my mother's arms with a big smile. She is turning 2 this year. When she was born, my husband and parents cried tears of joy and thanked me. There was a time when I wondered why I chose to keep 1 ovary, and I felt guilty for making my parents worry as they silently supported my choice. But now, I have no regrets at all. Because I have such a wonderful family. After giving birth, we rented an apartment near my parents' house. My parents often visit us, bringing extra dishes they cooked or vegetables they received from friends. I've resigned myself to not having another child due to my age, but it's been a great relief that my parents play with my daughter, so she doesn't feel lonely without siblings.
Grandma's staying for dinner, right? Is that okay with you, Emily? Of course. Call Dad over too.
Thanks. There are some pears in the fridge for Dad to bring over. Our ordinary, warm conversations filled the room. Despite experiencing mistreatment, divorce, and illness, I'm now living happy days, thanks to my parents and current husband. And my life is brighter because of my daughter, who came to me halfway through my life saying, I wanted to be a parent who could give unconditional love like my father and mother.
Mommy, this is for you.
My daughter placed a little acorn she found in the park in my hand.
Wow. Thank you. I'll cherish it.
I hugged her tightly. Together, cherishing these small joys, our family wants to continue living a life full of love and care for each other. I'm Susan Miller, a 42-year-old homemaker. 6 years ago, I married my husband, David. At the time of our marriage, David had a son, Mike, from his previous marriage. Mike was 16 then, right in the middle of his rebellious phase. Being a stepmother at such a sensitive time, Mike didn't take well to me at all. Whenever he saw me, he would attack with harsh words. David, who should have been witnessing all this, was completely indifferent. He never stood up for me. Now, Mike is 22. Suddenly, he brought home his girlfriend, Emily, announcing they were getting married. Mike and Emily were high school classmates. Since he had never brought a girl home before, David was a bit bewildered but still overjoyed. And what's more, Emily was 2 months pregnant, a double celebration. David was more excited than Mike, insisting on having the wedding before the pregnancy became too noticeable. As for the wedding, Mike and Emily were handling the arrangements, even planning to pay for it themselves, which was quite responsible of them. Mike and Emily seemed so happy preparing for their wedding. During the fitting for the wedding attire, David and I were also there. Mike was trying on tuxedos, Emily was looking at wedding and cocktail dresses. And David was getting fitted for a morning suit. As Mike's mother, I didn't want to be an embarrassment, so I got fitted for an elegant black dress. Then, David and Mike burst into laughter.
What's with all the fuss you're making? Why are you even coming to the wedding? We have no obligation to invite a fake mother.
David, Mike, and Emily were pointing and laughing at me.
Wait, what?
I was shocked by Emily's words and their attitude of mocking me together.
When Emily first came to our house, she had seemed so quiet and modest. Was she just pretending?
Now, she was refusing to acknowledge me as a mother, just like Mike. 2 months after the wedding introduction, the big day arrived. Mike and Emily, having finished their preparations, peeked into the reception hall, expecting it to be bustling. But, to their surprise, the hall was empty.
What's going on? What's this?
Mike and Emily were stunned.
Didn't you say strangers don't need to come to the wedding?
I appeared, deliberately dressed in casual home clothes.
I've sent a cancellation notice to all the guests.
Relatives, friends, they'll all have a good laugh at this.
What have you done? Well, aren't all relatives and friends essentially strangers? Relatives aren't strangers. When was the last time you even met with relatives? Only acknowledging them when it suits you must be inconvenient for them too.
I had never met the relatives of the Miller family myself. It seemed like they didn't have much of a relationship with relatives in general. Maybe they think it's enough to meet relatives only at weddings and funerals.
You're the one not welcomed by the relatives. Everyone in the family doesn't acknowledge your marriage to Dad. Maybe you should realize they dislike you?
I don't mind being disliked by relatives, Mike or Emily. I mean, it's not like they're supposed to like me. After all, I married David just 6 months after his first wife passed away, becoming the stepmother. The very term stepmother isn't well received, and people often say I'm after the wealth. But David doesn't have any fortune. There were no real benefits to marrying him, but I was prepared to become Mike's mother.
And what's with that outfit? Are you mocking us? My and Emily's wedding?
Well, I wasn't invited, so casual clothes are fine. Just thought I'd take a stroll and drop by.
Are you jealous? Telling me not to come to my own wedding? Thinking you've done a great job as a mom for just 6 years?
Emily was snickering on the side. They must share the same sentiments. That's probably why they're getting married.
Our marriage has nothing to do with you.
And don't think you'll be holding our baby.
Seriously, getting pregnant after just 3 months of dating? That's thoughtless and irresponsible. Honestly, you're just getting married because of the baby, right? Raising a child isn't as easy as you think. If you say I can't hold my grandchild, then I won't help with childcare at all.
We don't need your help.
Emily's mom said she'd help out. Blood-related mothers are kinder, you know. Besides, you've never even had a child, right? Talking about childcare when you've got no experience is kind of embarrassing.
True, I've never had a child. But I did help raise my much younger niece, born to my unmarried sister. She's 15 now. I haven't seen her much since marrying David, but we keep in touch via email. I once thought about relating her growth to Mike's, but stepchildren are not that simple.
Our new house is right near Emily's parents, so we won't have to see you anymore. But when I come to my parents' house, make yourself scarce. You're not family, after all.
David, too, will probably dote on his first grandchild. I can easily imagine him becoming a doting grandfather, spoiling the child with gifts. But even then, it'll be nice when the grandchild visits or leaves. The one who'll struggle the most is Emily. She might act tough now, saying she doesn't need help, but I bet she'll come crying to me eventually. I can't say for sure she won't desperately ask for my help. Childcare is that demanding. Emily's still young, and while her friends are out having fun, she'll be consumed by childcare 24/7. She'll definitely crack. Emily's mom says she'll help, but Emily has 2 younger brothers. It's unlikely she'll be able to offer much support. So, let me ask, Mike. You're unemployed right now, aren't you? How do you plan to support a family of 3?
I can get a job anywhere if I want to. I'm young and have all the potential.
That's easy to say. You've been hopping from one part-time job to another since high school, never staying longer than 3 months at any place. With such an indecisive and careless nature, how will you provide?
We're gonna become YouTubers. Making our parenting journey a content, it's bound to go viral. We'll even stream the birth live, capturing the attention of parents everywhere. Times have changed, Auntie. You're so outdated. YouTubers? That's already passé. Everything's been done, and there's nothing new left. You really think you can make a living off of YouTube?
I was astounded by their naive and simplistic idea. Countless people give up on YouTube within a year. Surpassing the current popular YouTubers is almost impossible now.
Don't act like you know everything. Our friends say our content will be useful when they get married and have kids. You wouldn't understand because you don't have friends. Anyway, I don't need lectures from an aunt who used to work in nightlife before marrying my dad. You just tricked him into marrying you.
Whoa, Auntie worked in nightlife?
I had no idea. But it makes sense. You've always had a bit of a tacky vibe. Too old for a club hostess, so maybe something more risque?
Mike and Emily laughed crudely. I did work in nightlife. At a club. I was, in a sense, a hired manager there. But I worked with pride.
I don't want to hear about jobs from someone like you. Just used men and tricked my dad to settle as a housewife. You just didn't want to work anymore, right? You're 42 now, aren't you? You could still have kids. Why don't you focus on that? I'm out of the picture, so no need to hold back.
I've never thought about having my own kids. There was a time I wanted a child with David. But he refused, and seeing Mike scared me. It's different from looking after my niece. There's a lot of responsibility, and I've heard about the struggles of older mothers. If I had a child now, I'd be over 60 when they're an adult.
I hesitated and gave up on the idea.
Auntie, having kids might be tough for you, right? Remember how terrible your lunches were in high school, Mike? The whole class laughed. Kindergarten-style character lunchbox for a high schooler? Yeah, I was so embarrassed. I always threw them away, but you kept making them.
I knew he threw away the lunches. Maybe I was stubborn to keep making them. Character lunch takes time and effort, and I had to wake up early. It might have seemed childish to a high schooler, but it was my way of trying.
And dinner, always trying too hard. Cooking course-like meals nobody asked for. I wanted hearty meals like steak or fried chicken, not pasta or paella. You thought it was fancy, but it wasn't tasty, and never enough. I ended up eating instant noodles at night. Weren't you making homemade cookies too? Trying too hard to be a mom, it's kinda sad. Of course, I tried hard.
Suddenly becoming a mother to a 16-year-old in an unwelcoming environment. I knew I wouldn't be liked or accepted from the start. But Mike, you never ate my cooking, did you? Always flipping the plate, saying how can anyone eat this, and ordering delivery.
Of course, restaurant food is better. They say nothing beats mom's cooking, but for me, delivery is a million times better.
David told me Mike was picky. He wanted me to excel in cooking. Before I married David, I lived at home and didn't cook much. Working nights meant I hardly had dinner with my dad, mom, sister, and niece. So, I had to study cooking desperately. I'd practice the dinner menu by making it for lunch first. Then, dinner was the real deal. I ended up eating the same menu twice a day. Mike was growing, so I couldn't cut corners. When I was home, my sister worked, so my mom and I took care of my niece. We protected her as a family, so she wouldn't feel lonely without a dad. I decided to marry David and become Mike's stepmom because I thought he still needed a mother figure. Mike's mom had health issues since he started middle school, going in and out of the hospital. David's mom took over his care. Mike's mom passed away when Mike was in 9th grade, followed soon by his grandmother. David and Mike must have been devastated. Especially Mike, with exams and all. He wasn't overly attached to his mom but didn't rebel either. She spent most of middle school in the hospital, so there wasn't much to rebel against. He probably sensed her impending death. But still, losing a mom so early is hard to process. Then David brought me home only half a year after her death, saying, "This is your new mom." How could he not be confused? It was impossible to accept. It was natural for Mike to dislike me. Whenever he saw me, he'd say, "Go away. I hate even breathing the same air as you." If I even appeared in his line of sight, he'd yell, "You're annoying. Get out of my sight. You make my eyes rot." I often went out until things cooled down. It was the same day after day. He barely graduated high school, hanging out and getting called in by teachers. Mike barely graduated high school but didn't get a job. Instead, he became what's essentially a jobless freeloader. His friends were either in college or working full-time, so he didn't have anyone to hang out with in his free time. He mostly spent his time at the arcade. The only time he talked to me was to ask for money. I had some savings from my years working nightlife while living at home. David, although it's rude to say, had insurance money from his late wife, so the Miller family didn't struggle financially. I had to give Mike money to avoid his verbal abuse and punching walls.
I don't need you, Mike, just as you don't need me. After everything that's happened, this is only natural payback. You can't just dismiss it as teenage rebellion. From now on, I'll do as I please. Even if you get divorced, don't think you can return home. That house is mine now. That house is my dad's and mine. You're just an outsider, so don't get comfortable. Didn't I mention? The house is now in my name. What? That can't be. The mortgage should have been paid off with my mom's insurance. You're completely unaware. David used that insurance money for FX trading or something and failed miserably. Funny, right? Mike, didn't you ask David to pay for your wedding but got refused? Well, yeah, but David doesn't have any spare money left. He couldn't pay the mortgage, so he came to me in tears. I paid off the remaining amount, which is why the house is in my name. Blame David for blowing your mom's hard-earned money in an instant. Don't get cocky just because you're the owner now. Flaunting money earned by pandering to men. Today's wedding is canceled, so make sure to pay up. It's about $60,000, right? You good with that? $60,000? Well, yeah, I can handle $60,000. Wow, a jobless guy with money, huh? Yeah, I can get it if I really want to. I know he can't, but let's see how this plays out. Emily looked worriedly and tugged at Mike's sleeve. Are you sure that's okay? Your dad already said no, and my family can't pay because of my brother's tuition fees, right? Don't worry, I'll handle the $60,000. How are you gonna do that? I'll borrow from a consumer finance company. What? You're going into debt? These days, there are options to pay for wedding costs in installments. Normally, for a regular wedding, you could collect gifts and use that money to pay. But this time, it's treated as a cancellation, so there are expenses for ingredients, rented outfits, and more. The gifts will go to waste, and cancellation is the last thing any wedding venue staff wants. But borrowing money from a consumer finance company, is that really okay? $600 is one thing, but $60,000? You didn't plan a wedding within your means, hence the $60,000, right? You even invited distant relatives and classmates you barely talked to. Mike, you always want to show off. If you had invited fewer people, the gifts might have covered it. Mind your own business. I'll earn it through YouTube. $60,000 is nothing. Just watch. Suit yourself. I didn't say everything I wanted, but I'm not cruel enough to torment them further. I let the two, still in their tuxedo and wedding dress, go. Probably, both Mike and Emily would have to borrow the maximum from consumer finance to gather $60,000. Paying it back will be tough, especially with a child on the way and more expenses. It's up to Mike how far he'll push himself. Did he inherit his lack of resolve from David? When I got home, David, having heard from Mike, was waiting. Now it seems I'm up for a battle with David. You went to the wedding venue in pajamas like clothes? You told everyone that today's wedding was canceled and didn't have to go? Was your aim to crush Mike? Not just Mike, maybe you too, David. Scary. You are cunning. Just like a woman from nightlife. This is a good chance to tell you, David. You married me just to have someone take care of you, right? When I was working as a manager at a club, David was a regular. Looking back, I wonder how he managed to come drinking every night while his wife was hospitalized. Maybe it was hard for him, and he needed a break. Still, it looked bad. I thought something happened when David, a regular, stopped showing up. But I never imagined his wife had passed away. Soon after he started coming again, David personally invited me out. The club I worked at wasn't high-end. It was more accessible. Which is probably why they let someone like me manage it. David wasn't a big earner. Yet, he started coming daily to woo me. He must have been lonely after his wife's death. Needing any woman to fill the void. He probably just noticed I was of a certain age and still single. I too felt the limits of nightlife. It's not a world to stay in long, and I didn't dream of owning my place then. Most of my friends were married with families. I thought, why not experience being a full-time homemaker? I was tired of working. So, when a man proposed, and it happened to be David, I accepted. Hearing he had a son in high school gave me pause. But David proposed like he was royalty. You may have concerns about my son, but I promise to protect you for the rest of my life. David had said, persuading me to marry him. So, David, you just got tired of everything, right? After your wife passed away, then your mother, you realized you couldn't do anything by yourself. Mike was still in high school and needed a mother. There I was, the leftover woman, and you married me to fill the gap of a wife and mother. What are you talking about? Such nonsense. Nonsense. My precious 6 years.
You're not even that rich, and your son did nothing but rebel against me. Did you ever stand up for me even once when Mike was awful to me? Instead, you joined him in mocking and complaining about me. No, I never meant. Your proposal was a complete lie. Protect you with all my might, you said, but you just ignored everything. You turned a blind eye and ran away. If that's what you think, then maybe it's true. So, you're defiant now. I've been holding back because of Mike, but not anymore. Besides, this house is mine now, so David, you better understand your place. I'm in charge here. After enduring for 6 years, Mike left home rather quickly. David, with over a decade until retirement, will continue to be a corporate slave, a worker bee. The least he can do is contribute financially to the house. You've suddenly become so prickly. Did being called a stranger by Mike and Emily really bother you that much? It's the truth, after all. Getting upset over it is silly. Sure, Mike may have been rebellious and hurt you, but that happens in every family. Even real mothers face rebellion from their children. It's a normal phenomenon. Complaining about it now is childish. Bringing up the past won't change anything. I'm done with Mike. He's left home, and even if he has kids, they're none of my business. They're strangers to me. I probably won't even find them cute. This house is mine now. If you dare oppose me in the future, I'll sell this house, divorce you, and leave. Be prepared for that. I'm just returning what's been done to me in a bigger way. It's payback for how you've used and ridiculed me. Any objections? Yes, checkmate. I won't stay silent forever. This is my retaliation against Mike, Emily, and David for underestimating me. It's time to unleash my 6 years of pent-up frustration. No objections. But you'll take care of me in my old age, right? Seriously? That's your concern? You're just selfish. It's clear now what kind of person you are. I never expected much from David in the first place. But he could have said more. A late-life divorce might be on the table, you know. At that, David visibly panicked. He had no idea what minefield he had stepped into. Both father and son, utterly clueless. Mike and Emily's wedding of the century ended up a fantasy. They borrowed money from consumer finance, saddling themselves with debt. Raising a child costs more than one can imagine. They won't be able to spend freely as they used to. A child often falls ill, leading to frequent hospital visits and medication expenses. Have they even considered these future costs? Mike finally started a part-time job, but I doubt how long he'll last. He's probably not used to being scolded, and a little harsh word might make him quit. Seems so soft. But with monthly rent, Emily's maternity expenses, baby supplies, plus debt repayment, they'll have a lot on their plate. I'll just sit back and watch to see if they can make it. I wonder if they're still dreaming of becoming YouTubers. If so, they'll soon face reality. They'll probably end up crying to David or Emily's family for help. David is broke. Emily's family also has 2 brothers, one attending a private high school and the other a private university student. That must be a significant monthly expense. They can't afford to live like this. There's no money for the baby's milk. They're being chased by debt collectors. Even if they come crying to Emily's parents, saying all this, I wonder if they realistically have any money to help. They might end up coming to me for help. Though, given Mike and Emily's pride, they might not allow themselves to do that, but it would be their last resort. If they come to me for help, I won't give them a single cent. After all, if Mike and Emily work seriously, they should be able to cover the amount. Their failure is due to trying to take shortcuts instead of working hard. I wish they would live more earnestly. As for my retaliation against David, I'm thinking in terms of money. David came up with this idea. Susan, please. I'll give you a certain amount of money each month, like a loan payment. Please change the house's name back to mine. A grandchild is on the way, and there might be more in the future. The only thing I can leave for Mike and the grandchildren is this house.
It's about maintaining my dignity as a parent. So please. All right. How about $2,000 a month for the loan repayment? That leaves you with a $200 allowance each month. $200? That's too much. What about my lunch expenses? Skipping lunch would decrease my work efficiency. I buy at least one drink a day. I can't afford it. Then make a sandwich in the morning and take it with you. Fill a thermos with drinks. Use your head more. Susan, you're going to prepare that for me? What? Of course not. Why do you keep treating me like a maid? I'm not taking care of Mike or you anymore. I've finally gained my freedom. It's not decided yet, but I'm thinking of getting a job myself. Ideally, I'd like to start my own business, but that requires a competent business partner. Still, it's a dream I want to fulfill someday. I don't want to end my life just being a wife and a mother. I'm pregnant, so give me a $60,000 gift. Madison blurted out her true feelings. How dare she come back home so boldly after stealing my fiancé? Just because she's pregnant doesn't mean she's forgiven. My father calmly repeats, "Get out." No way. I've already decided to come home for childbirth. What's wrong with a daughter returning to her parents' house? Madison, still brazen, seems unaware of the truth. She has no home to return to. Moreover, she's lost something even more important. I'm Emily Smith, 25 years old. Soon to be Mrs. Johnson. My marriage is settled. A year ago, worried about my eternal single status, my friends practically dragged me to a mixer. Honestly, it was none of their business. Because I'm not good looking. I've always been self-conscious about not having a bigger butt or a smaller nose since I was a kid. I thought no man could ever like unattractive me. But at that mixer, I met my destiny, Michael Johnson. Michael, lively in the life of the party, even talked to me, shrinking in the corner. Your name is Emily? That's cute. My heart raced so fast I thought I'd have a heart attack. Wow, Emily, you work at a good company. That means you've been studying hard since your student days. That's impressive. You're a hard worker. My less social, study-focused student days felt rewarded. It's fun to be with cheerful people. But being with calm people like Emily is more relaxing. Michael liked me, and I got my first ever boyfriend. Everything, from movies to meals, was so much more fun with two people than alone. And after dating for a year, he proposed, and now we're starting our wedding preparations. He's sociable and handsome, too good for me. My goodness, Emily's too lucky. When I introduced Michael to my parents, my mother first showed surprise. I thought the same, but it still hurts to hear it from her. Where did you find such a handsome guy? Walking next to you, Emily, it's embarrassing. I feel sorry for Michael. My father quietly told her to stop, and she tapped her head. Sorry, I got carried away. I can't believe plain Emily is getting married, and she brought home a handsome guy. I'm shocked. Despite looking quiet, you did well, Emily. Michael and I exchanged dry smiles. My mother has always put me down. Emily, your nose is too big. Wouldn't it be better if it were smaller? Maybe you should consider plastic surgery? Hearing this repeatedly made me hate my appearance. And I have an older sister, for years my senior, who's stunningly beautiful. Tall, with distinct facial features, she looks like a model. People often compliment her looks, and occasionally, I'd receive some spillover praise like, "You are cute too." But my mother would quickly negate it. No, we don't need flattery here. Sorry to make you feel awkward. Standing next to each other, it's hard to find something to say about this one, right? Look, her nose is big, and her legs are short. She's quite the unfortunate one compared to her sister. She seemed delighted as she put me down in front of others. I remember the miserable feeling of being exposed in public. I had a faint hope that, at least today, during the marriage introduction, she would genuinely congratulate me. But my mother was the same as always, so I just looked down quietly. I made it!
Let me see Emily's boyfriend. A bright voice suddenly filled the somewhat tense living room. Turning around, there was my sister, Madison. The beautiful sister I had always been compared to. Michael's face immediately relaxed. You're Emily's sister? Michael sounded excited. You don't look much like Emily, do you? I know, right? I get that a lot. Michael and Madison laughed and chatted freely, despite just meeting. On the way back, Michael kept reminiscing about Madison. Madison was cute, wasn't she? She seems like a nice sister, lucky you. It's nice, Emily, having a beautiful sister. Oh, and your mom's beautiful too. Madison takes after her, I guess. I forced a smile, though my heart felt complicated. Your dad's really nice too. I can't believe he's prepared $60,000 for our wedding. We can have a grand ceremony. Emily's family is really blessed. Michael repeated how envious he was. Then, suddenly, Michael stopped. That's right. I'm gonna be part of Emily's family. We're getting married, after all. I'll get a beautiful sister and a kind dad. Michael's playful remark made me burst out laughing. He's straightforward and adorable. I thought he could easily laugh off my worries. But a week later, Michael said, "Let's break up." He said it so casually, like a morning greeting, and I just tilted my head, not understanding. Still smiling, I asked, "What?" "So, let's break up." "What? What do you mean?" Michael sighed exaggeratedly. "I mean, it's over between us, Emily. No wedding. I don't love you anymore. Actually, I never really did." He laughed heartily at his own words. "I thought it'd be nice to have a hardworking, serious, and money-making wife like you. I really felt a spark thinking Emily's the one I'll marry. But I didn't want to hear the rest. I wanted to cover my ears, but I was frozen in place. If we're getting married, looks matter, right? The thought of waking up every day to your face and thinking she's ugly today too is like torture. So, I'm marrying Madison." I had a bad feeling when Michael and Madison first met. The happiness I almost had slipped away easily. In the end, I couldn't win against the beautiful Madison. I wanted to believe this was a lie, but then Madison herself joyfully announced her engagement. "Sorry, Emily. I took Michael. I'm almost in my 30s and was thinking about marriage, so I'll marry Michael." When Madison called me to our parents' house, my mother had prepared a feast. "Madison is finally getting married. I'm happy, but it's a bit lonely," she said. "You're crying, Mom?" "Just tears of joy. Right?" It looked like a happy exchange between mother and daughter. But my dad was shocked. And rigid expression said otherwise. "Michael, as in Emily's?" "Yeah. He said he'd rather marry me." My dad, sitting in his dining chair, leaned back sharply. Almost falling, I rushed to support him. "Are you okay, Dad?" He was trembling, unable to speak. "What's with that reaction? Are you that sad I'm getting married?" Madison laughed mockingly, pointing at him, despite Dad's obvious distress. "Don't joke around. What do you think you're doing to Emily?" Dad shouted in a flipped voice. Madison and Mom laughed even harder. I could only rub my red-faced father's back. "Get out! How can you enjoy stealing your sister's fiancé? I don't want to see your face. Get out and never show it again!" Dad shouted, tears streaming down his face. Ugh, scary. And he's crying, gross. "Honey, it's supposed to be a celebration. Stop it. Calm down." Dad glared at my giggling mother. He slammed his fist on the dining table with a loud crash. Madison and Mom flinched at the sound. "Dad, that's so unfair. You were happy about Emily's marriage, but you won't bless mine? A father discriminating between his children is the worst. I'm so disappointed in you." Madison and Mom left the house after dropping these parting words. Dad pushed the feast on the table aside, tears of frustration in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Emily."
Why are you apologizing, Dad? I'm over it now, it's okay.
"No, it's not that. Dad was wrong. Actually." Then Dad started to speak, hesitantly revealing the truth I had never even considered. It was unexpected, but I accepted it without question.
If only I had been more assertive. Dad, it's okay. It's better this happened before the marriage. Even if we had married, he was the kind of man who would have cheated eventually. Let her have him.
I tried to sound strong, but tears rolled down my cheeks.
Emily, I will always be on your side.
Dad gripped my hand tightly. At that moment, I let out all the emotions I had been holding back and threw myself into his arms. Since then, I haven't seen Madison or Michael. Madison apparently moved into Michael's apartment, enjoying their newlywed life. Our family home and my apartment in the city are in New York, while Michael's place is in a neighboring state, about an hour's train ride away. The physical distance was a relief, given that Michael and I used to hang out in the city. The emotional wound was deep, but it gradually healed over time. It's been a year since that nightmarish incident, and my memories of Michael have faded to a blur. I started visiting my childhood home again, thanks to Dad's efforts, especially since Mom was there. I was getting used to a peaceful life. Then, one warm Sunday, I went to visit Dad. "Dad, you love pork belly, right? I'll cook some for you." As I stood in the kitchen chatting with Dad, our calm time was abruptly interrupted. The sound of the front door being jiggled caught our attention. In broad daylight, we braced for a burglar, but to our surprise, the door unlocked, and an unexpected person appeared. "Ah, Emily's here. Long time no see." It was Madison. Behind her was Michael, carrying large bags.
Madison, why are you here?
Dad stood up, startled as if he'd seen a ghost.
"I told you never to show your face here again."
Scary.
"Are you still mad, Dad? Do you hold grudges that long?"
Madison sat down on the living room sofa.
"Get out! This isn't your home."
Again, my father raised his voice. But Madison just smiled smugly.
"Come on, Dad. Stop being angry about something that happened a year ago.
It's over now." Madison gently stroked her belly with a strangely tender touch, making me feel uneasy.
"I'm pregnant. You're going to be a grandfather, Dad. Aren't you happy? I've decided to come back home for the birth, so please take care of me."
It was clear. Madison thought that having a baby would make everything forgivable. The way she lovingly stroked her belly seemed almost mockingly spiteful.
"I'll let you hold the baby, Dad. Let's make up, okay?"
Dad, with a furrowed brow, spoke in a low voice.
"What's your real motive?"
Madison clicked her tongue in annoyance.
"So rude. I'm trying to make amends here."
Dropping her smiling facade, Madison revealed her true intentions.
"I'm pregnant, so I want a $60,000 gift."
It was about money, after all. I couldn't help but blurt out.
"I'm not interested in my sister's child. Please leave."
Then Madison clung to Michael.
"No way, Emily's scary. Are you still mad at me? That's too obsessive, don't you think? Wait, do you still have feelings for Michael? Stop trying to steal someone else's husband, okay? Oh, but with you, I guess I don't have to worry about him being stolen."
Madison and Michael exchanged glances and snickered. Feeling embarrassed, I averted my eyes from their mocking stares.
"Wow, you really are ugly. I'm glad we didn't get married. When you're angry, you get more wrinkles and your eyes look even worse. No benefits at all. Ugliness becomes uglier. Come on, Emily, smile." "Hey Madison, leave her alone. Even if she smiles, she's still ugly."
True. As my father and I remained silent, the two of them got carried away, feeling victorious. No matter how beautiful they might look on the outside, their smiles were tainted with ugliness. Their loud, obnoxious laughter was grating to my ears. After a while, my father repeated,
Get out.
"No way."
I've already decided to come back home for childbirth. Is it bad for a daughter to return to her parents' house? Hey, by the way, where's Mom?
"I'm hungry." Dad tilted his head in confusion.
Haven't you heard?
Why didn't Madison know? Dad continued.
Your mother is no longer here. What? I had her leave. What?
I had assumed Madison had been informed by our mother. But her reaction suggested she was completely unaware.
What? That's a lie. Why?
The reason was obvious: Madison herself. Despite Madison stealing my fiancé, Mom didn't mind and even blessed her marriage. We sisters had always been discriminated against by our mother, but this was too much. Even Dad couldn't forgive her.
I can't believe this. Who's going to take care of me and the baby then? Bring Mom back right now.
Madison, the reason for our parents' strained marriage, was still only concerned about herself.
Madison, stop it. That's impossible.
Why?
Just ask Mom to come back and apologize.
No, it's impossible.
Mom isn't coming back because she and Dad are divorced.
Madison choked, unable to speak.
So, the kind of homecoming for childbirth you're thinking of isn't possible. It's a lie. It's not a lie. Besides, the divorce was because of you, Madison. You had the nerve to come back after breaking up our parents.
Madison's face contorted as she slowly looked around the room. The flashy paintings and cute stuffed animals that were Mom's favorites were gone. The reality of the divorce hit Madison hard.
What about the baby then? You'll have to take care of it yourself. You're going to be a mother, after all. That's what you should do. But I can't handle childcare. I don't want a life with messy hair and no nails. Even if I have a child, I want to be a glamorous mom. Without Mom, it's all impossible.
I was appalled. She planned to dump all childcare on Mom. The baby would probably be just an accessory to get compliments from others.
I can't believe you got divorced without consulting me. Ugh, this is so annoying. Fine, Dad will do. I'm moving in here for a while. Dad can take care of the baby.
Had she not been listening? Dad was rejecting her, but she acted otherwise. Madison seemed to believe she was a special being, entitled to love and protection from everyone. It was baffling to imagine what was going on in her mind. Why should I? Dad had calmed his earlier agitation and asked coldly.
Come on, Dad. Let's end this fight, okay? I'll apologize to Emily. I'm really sorry. I took Michael from you. I can't raise the baby alone. Help me, Dad.
Her feigned sweetness was chilling. Dad twitched at his temples and contorted his face.
Stop it, will you? I don't want to be called Dad by you. You're not my daughter. That's mean, Dad.
It was nauseating to watch. Was this the behavior that fooled men? It certainly wasn't working on Dad.
Be quiet. Every time I hear your voice, I feel disgusted. Understand this, I have no obligation to take care of you. We're not family, we're strangers.
That's so mean.
Does the bond of parent and child break so easily? There was never a bond to begin with.
Dad took a deep breath before revealing a truth.
You and I are not blood related.
Madison's eyes widened in shock. I had heard this story a year ago, after Madison stole my then fiancé, Michael.
Madison, your mom's child from a previous marriage, and we got married later.
I learned that I was a child born after they remarried. I had always felt that the discrimination from our mother towards us sisters was more than just because of Madison's appearance. Perhaps Mom was overcompensating out of fear of Dad's favoritism. Dad had always loved us equally, and the fact that I was still his daughter didn't change.
That's absurd. So now that you're divorced from Mom, you're cutting ties with me because we're not blood related? That's too cruel. And I always thought of you as my dad. After all these years, you're just going to abandon me?
Madison was only 2 years old when they remarried. It made sense she had no memory of that time and believed Dad was her biological father. "There's no abandoning you and I." Madison cut him off with a loud voice. "Ah, I hate this. I can't believe I thought of someone like you as my dad, how stupid." Despite being shocked, her anger seemed to outweigh everything else. "It doesn't matter who my dad is. Actually, I'm glad you're not my real dad. If I had your DNA, my beauty would have definitely been downgraded. I wonder if my real dad is handsome. Lucky me, born from a beautiful mother and a handsome father." Madison's lack of distress and her harsh words were infuriating. But Madison's scheming expression continued. "Just because you're divorced doesn't mean you can cut off our parent-child relationship just like that. This will be the last time, so please celebrate the baby. Right, Dad?" Madison tilted her head, trying to appear cute. "You were going to give Emily $60,000 for her wedding, right? Since I'm not having a wedding, you can give me that as a baby shower gift. I'll give up on coming home for childbirth." She seemed intent on getting whatever she could, even in the process of cutting ties. "There's not a penny for strangers. I've fulfilled my duty as a parent. Go to your mother for help. Michael, please take Madison and leave." Dad was firm in his refusal. Michael, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. "That's not right. Just because you divorced your wife, does that mean you're no longer Madison's parent? You raised her since she was a child, don't you have any feelings? Besides, it's not the unborn child's fault, so please give them a celebration. Don't make me repeat myself. I have no money for strangers. Go to your mother." Madison and Michael accused Dad of being heartless. "I feel sorry for my past self, thinking of you as my father. When the baby is born, I'll tell them their grandfather was the worst. Mom hated him, so he didn't celebrate your birth. Madison and the baby will always resent you." Madison spat out her curse-like words. But Dad remained unfazed. "Blame your mother. Mom's a victim, discarded by you. I raised you as my own daughter, but we couldn't become a real family because of your mother." "What?" Dad looked straight at Madison and explained. "When we remarried, I thought we'd become a real family by legally adopting Madison. But your mother secretly tore up the adoption papers." Dad asked, "Do you know why?" Madison frowned in confusion. "Your mother wanted to keep receiving child support from your biological father. She hid the remarriage and continued to receive about $400 a month. At the time of the remarriage, Mom insisted on keeping her maiden name. So Madison wouldn't know about the marriage change. Reflecting now, it was likely to keep the remarriage a secret." Dad continued in a disgusted tone. "If that money had been used for Madison, it would be understandable. But it seems it was just pocket money for her." "What?" That's how it is. We're divorced now, and you and I are strangers. Why should I give a large sum of money to a stranger? Is this extortion? Should I call the police?" Madison's face turned red with anger and embarrassment. "That's awful. How can you be so cold?" "The cold one is your mother." After a pause, I asked, "Why did you suddenly decide to come back home for childbirth without discussing it first?" "Because Mom." Madison hesitated. "Because Mom?" She reluctantly continued. "Mom didn't reply. I couldn't contact her. I thought she'd be happy about the baby and that coming home for childbirth would be fine." "I see, so you decided to come back on your own because you couldn't contact Mom. Didn't you think it was strange that she wasn't responding?" "Not really." "Right, Madison always assumed she was loved and deserved special treatment. You never thought Mom would abandon you." "What? I don't think Mom wants to see you anymore." "That's a lie. Mom loves me." "Yes, but it seems she loves herself more. I believed Mom would always side with Madison no matter what. So it was unbelievable that she would betray Madison in the worst way. It was shortly after Madison had stolen my fiancé, Michael, leading to a marriage by elopement. The relationship between my father and mother had irreparably broken down. Inevitably, they divorced, and the very next day, my mother quickly disappeared. She took the money intended for your wedding, too. Madison, still not grasping the situation, listened. As I continued. Dad had saved $60,000 for both of us. But Mom took your share and disappeared without telling you about the divorce or the money. After the divorce, it was decided that Mom would take care of Madison. Mom condemned Dad as a heartless man, vowing never to let Madison see him again. So, Dad never reached out to Madison. He believed Mom would tell her about the divorce and give her the money, but this was the outcome. That's horrible. Give me my money back. Madison grabbed my shirt, but there was nothing I could do. I looked into her eyes and said firmly. That's why Dad said to blame Mom. Madison was struggling to accept that Mom had abandoned her. Confused, she held her head. What should I do? Who will take care of the baby? My money, she muttered in a panic. Turning to Michael, who had been trying to stay out of it, Madison cried for help. Michael, what should we do? Michael avoided eye contact and muttered, I don't know. Michael was never reliable. He married me for financial security and switched to Madison for her beauty. A man like that wouldn't be dependable in a crisis. What do you mean you don't know? You're so cold. Why am I the only one suffering like this? Madison crumbled in despair, and I just watched from above. We eventually managed to get her to leave, but I was far from relieved. Then an unexpected situation arose. Look, I'm going to destroy all our family memories. Late at night, Madison called, and I accidentally answered while half asleep. It switched to a video call, and what I saw made my brain nearly explode. What? The house? Our family home was on fire. The fire was still small, confined to potted plants at the entrance, but the strong wind was fanning the flames. Michael's face appeared on the screen. That's scary. Did you fall asleep with a cigarette or something? Oh, wait, you wouldn't sleep at the entrance. Actually, this was my brilliant idea. Hey, Emily, want the fire put out? Michael was never dependable. My judgment of him was apparently correct. I'll put it out right away. So, about the money. You won't be getting married anyway, so just hand over your share of the $60,000 to us, right? I'm not giving you the money. Oh, don't care what happens to your dad in the house? Such a heartless daughter. You're mistaken about something. Nobody lives in that house. What? Unfortunately for them, Dad is right here with me. Looking at the video call screen. Why not? Because Dad moved in with me. We thought you might bother us, but we never expected you to do something this dangerous. It was a good decision to move. Lies! Someone's living there! What? That can't be. As we spoke, the fire grew stronger. Suddenly, the front door opened. Mom? It was my mother who emerged from the house. Apparently having been asleep inside when the smoke crept in. Give me back my money! Instead of a heartwarming reunion, Madison immediately attacked Mom. Mom, still groggy from sleep, stumbled and fell back. Don't run away. I finally found you. Give me back my money. Madison tried to grab Mom, who lost her balance and fell into the burning potted plants. Hot! Help! Mom's face was already reddened and her hair singed, even though she escaped the small fire quickly. It hurts! It's hot! As Mom cried and rolled on the ground, Madison and Michael made no move to help. In fact, a faint smile played on Madison's face. Then, fire trucks and police cars arrived. And Madison and Michael finally panicked. They were arrested on the spot for arson, still not grasping the gravity of their actions. Their intention was probably just a minor threat to extort money from Dad and me. The triviality of their malice was chilling. Although the damage was minimal, Madison and Michael received actual prison sentences. We just wanted some money. In their cold cells, that's what they were said to have muttered. Madison gave birth in confinement and had no choice but to relinquish her child. The child would undoubtedly be better off in foster care or with adoptive parents than being raised by Madison. Additionally, my mother suffered severe facial burns. Apparently, she had been sneaking into the house frequently, stealing valuables without Dad's knowledge. After learning that Dad had moved out but hadn't sold the house, she decided to live there. My mother, once beautiful like Madison, lost her beauty easily. But I feel no sympathy. She betrayed and discarded not just me but Madison as well. How could I feel sorry for such a person?
Your house caused my burns. Take responsibility.
My mother irrationally blamed my father.
It's your fault for living in someone else's house without permission. That's trespassing and theft, isn't it? How dare you? Look at what happened to my face. That's irrelevant to your crimes. You will be held accountable.
My father was unyielding. Mother's once beautiful face, now distorted and marred, contorted further as she wept bitterly. Even though she had aged gracefully, relying on men for her livelihood was no longer an option. The burned house suffered only minor damage to the entrance. Though still habitable, we decided to let it go. My father took early retirement and bought a small house near the beach. Being single and able to work remotely, I decided to join him.
Ah, this is perfect. So relaxing.
The large windows of our house offer a view of the sea, especially beautiful at sunset. I used to enjoy the conveniences of city life, but now I'm fond of the laid-back lifestyle in the countryside. Looking outside, I saw a squirrel darting by. The area, rich in nature, is frequented by squirrels, raccoons, and occasionally rabbits. I thought moving to a less populated rural area might mean fewer human encounters, but I frequently met wildlife instead. You took a long shower. Get ready, he'll be here soon. And it wasn't just wildlife I encountered. I also met a wonderful man. We planned to work together in the garden. He might not be someone Madison would envy, but I like his simple, unpretentious nature. After gardening, my father, smiling, was selecting a bottle of wine for us to enjoy together.
Hey, Emily. Will you be showing me your wedding dress soon? Oh, maybe. I'm looking forward to it. You'll look beautiful in white. You're exceptionally pretty, you know.
Lately, my father has been making doting comments frequently. Thanks to this, the curse of believing I was unattractive is finally starting to lift. Secretly, I also yearned for a beautiful wedding dress.
Stop it, Dad. Have you been drinking already?
I felt my face warm slightly. My father chuckled mischievously. Our life was simple yet filled with happiness.